Hey Amarillo, I'm Jason Boyette, and you're listening to Hey Amarillo, the interview podcast featuring some of the most interesting people and stories of Amarillo, Texas. Today's guest is Elizabeth Pakravan, the founder and executive director of Martha Root Community Building. This is the local nonprofit that works to empower underserved communities by equipping children and their parents for a successful future. Elizabeth is relatively new to this area. She moved here just a couple of years ago from Oregon. And she's originally from Paraguay. She was born there to a Paraguayan mother and a father who was from Iran. And outside her nonprofit, one of the things that really caught my attention was her religious faith. Elizabeth is Baha'i. I'm a big religion nerd. I've written books about it. And I'm fascinated with Baha'i. This religious tradition is very small in Amarillo. There are only about 50 or 60 people here who practice it. And it's a relatively modern world religion. It dates back to the 1800s, originating in modern-day Iran. And it emphasizes the spiritual unity of all humans, that all world religions come from the same divine source. And so Baha'i seeks to promote world peace and justice and universal equality. And those are things I appreciate about it. And so we talk about her faith, we talk about her work and her experience coming to Amarillo. Here's Elizabeth Pakravan. Elizabeth Pakravan, welcome to the Hey Amarillo podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Jason, for reminding me. This is a beautiful surprise to be here.
Well, it's my honor to have you in the studio. I know just the tiniest bit about your story, and I'm eager to learn more. And I think the best place to start, and this is the way I start with all my guests, is to ask, why are you here in Amarillo? Because I know you're a relative newcomer to this area.
Yes.
So tell me what brought you here.
Well, I'm from Paraguay. I moved to Oregon like almost 10 years ago. And then I moved to Texas. Because of the Baha'i faith, I was assigned 2 cities or communities in Texas. One was Amarillo, Lubbock, Wichita Falls, and Taxoma Lake.
Okay.
So I asked the institutions which one is the priority. And they said Amarillo.
Okay.
So I landed here.
How long ago was that?
That will be 2 years in January.
Okay. And was that primarily because there was not much of a Baha'i presence in Amarillo? Is that why Amarillo was part of your assignment, I guess?
Well, no, the thing is the intention that we have plans, like we are now in the 9-year plans worldwide. And the Baha'i international community, the intention is to build community. It's not to convert people to the Baha'i faith. So what we do when they focus on Amarillo, Amarillo is one of the 4th communities in South Central the United States that can become a reservoir cluster, meaning we have the capacity to develop resources, like human resources, that can become expert in building community.
Okay. Why is that? Is it because of the geographical location of Amarillo, or is there something else about the community, the demographics?
Well, I think it's a mix of many elements. And one of the main reasons is because Amarillo is we are in a very strategic place, far away from Dallas, from like the big, cities. I mean, bigger than us. We are a big city.
Right. but comparatively.
Yeah. So, but we can move strategically to different points.
Okay. So I want to talk about Baha'i in a moment. That's one of the reasons I invited you to be on the show. People who know me know that I have a fascination with religion. I was really excited to meet you because I don't know anyone who is a practitioner of Baha'i, and I'm fascinated with that religion. However, I also want to talk about, who you are and what you've done before coming to Amarillo, because you say you're from Paraguay.
Yeah.
Your last name does not sound to me like a typical
Iranian.
Paraguayan name. All right, so it's Iranian.
Yes.
So tell me about yourself and your family.
Okay. Well, my father left Iran as a Baha'i pioneer to South America.
Okay.
And so he married with my mom, who is Paraguayan. That's why I'm half-half. And
when was this?
He left Iran in 1963, 64, around there. Yeah, before the revolution in Iran.
Okay.
So we went to live in Spain. I mean, we were in different places, but Paraguay was our home.
Okay.
I never planned to, I came to Denver when I finished high school to learn English, and then I went back to Paraguay, never planned to leave my country. And then circumstances in life made me come back. A husband.
A husband. Okay.
So yeah, I moved to Oregon because of that with my children. I'm a journalist. I have a bachelor's degree in journalism. I did TV, I did radio, mostly for fun or by accident.
Mm-hmm.
And then my passion is business.
Okay.
Business development, strategic marketing, customer service management. So back in Paraguay, I used to work with huge corporations like Toyota, KDDI from Japan, and other companies in South America. So when I moved to Oregon, I began to work in a community college, hiring people from underrepresented communities for the college. And then I began to learn the reality of underserved communities. And that really caught my attention. I became very curious. And I remember when I was a kid, I told my dad once, I was like 6 or 7, said, I want to have a lot of money. And he said, why is that? Because I want to solve the problem of all the children in the world.
Yeah.
And he said, Ellie, that's impossible. And then later on, somebody said, helping humanity is not helping people in Africa or on the other side of the world. Helping humanity is listening to the person who is knocking your door or your neighbor, because that's the humanity that is you are able to help.
Right.
So I stick with that for most of my life. But then I always wanted to do something and I didn't know what. I enjoy serving the community, serving the faith, learning. But to me, meeting people is an opportunity to learn.
Okay.
So then I moved here to Texas, and it's like, okay, what am I going to do here?
Mm-hmm.
When I landed to Amarillo, my first job was as a business coach for Action Coach.
Okay.
For the Hispanic community. Right. And then as a substitute teacher in Palo Duro High School. And I began to see the disconnection between the youth, the families, the community, especially the institution. And I began to do some research. And I found, which is not the reality only of Amarillo, but most of the world nowadays. So this is how I began open this nonprofit Martha Ruth Community Building.
Okay.
Because I saw a need to work in that part of the community.
Right. Especially at Palo Duro. Palo Duro is one of those schools where you have students speaking multiple languages.
Yes.
There's a lot of diversity, a lot of different ethnic groups represented there.
Yeah.
In Amarillo as a city, we have so many refugees who come here. Yeah. We have a lot more diversity than people probably think from the outside.
38 languages.
Yes.
I was like, what?
Yes. And so that is one thing that I feel like we do struggle to build community, or for different communities to reach out to other communities. You can be sort of isolated if you come from a different people group, a different religion, a different language.
Because I think they also self-isolate. So helping them to understand that this is not a way to succeed is one of the things that we want to work. You know, that cultural understanding of, okay, I don't lose my culture, but I also have the capacity to immerse and merge with where I am,
Tell me about your foundation then, the Martha Root Foundation. Like, what are some of the things that you are working towards?
Well, that first, I really didn't want to go to the nonprofit world because I'm like the for-profit.
Yeah, you want to make money, right?
No, not really, but it's just I feel in my element. So I developed this program and I wanted somebody to take it. And then Amarillo Ara Foundation said, no, you open your nonprofit and then we will support you and, you will.
Yeah. You're the person to take this information.
I said, okay. So I said, what I found is that, we have a very low college readiness. Mm-hmm. And then another big problem is 50% of even the dual high school graduates don't go to college.
Right.
So my question was, where do they go? Where, and then, doing more research, like in 2050, we will have like 70% of the jobs in Texas will require higher ed. And if we don't have that capacity to cover those positions, then other people will come. And what is going to happen with our kids or youth or future generations? So what I did was, because I began in Oregon, I had this workshop that I will present college students, high school students, and the community about how to brand yourself, which is something that I did back in Paraguay based on my experience hiring people, especially youth. So I create this workshop for parents to show them how to connect, first, in meaningful ways with their children, and second, how the core values that we learn at home are connected with soft skills and life skills. And so what I did is I create a program, like first was like a 6-month program. Now I short to 3 months, but people want like for a year.
Yeah.
So I'm just in that experimental mode. And we talk about, first, we do an assessment. What is the reality of the parents that are coming to the group? And then based on that, we have like an outline of the program, and then we just coach them.
Okay.
And then we come back and analyze, okay, what happened? And mainly is, for on one side is take care of me as a parent, and then how do I connect? And why it is important. And then show them, okay, in business, if you go, these are the skills that you will need. Mm-hmm. This is what companies are needing. And if you're an entrepreneur, you need this. So they have an idea. And because we know that most of the jobs, not most, but many jobs will disappear. And many others will be created.
Right.
But if at home we don't prepare our kids with that mindset of learning, being curious, having difficult conversations, challenge themselves, they will finish high school not ready for, to go forward in life. Not that they will fail, the learning curve will be longer and more painful.
Right. So and oftentimes what I've heard is that the path to a college education is one that can be laid out by parents. There will be a lot of kids that are very bright, that do well in school, but if their parents don't talk about college or their teachers haven't talked about it, they don't even see that as an option. And so they don't look into it. And often it takes just the suggestion or the encouragement from somebody with authority to send them along a path where they can really succeed. And so you need adults in your life. Maybe it's the parents, maybe it's teachers. Yeah. But they need to be, talked to about it just as well as the kids do.
Absolutely, yes. Because we are not aware. We don't know what we don't know.
Right.
And we do our best with what we have. So like yesterday, we were in a group of parents and we were doing like a questionnaire how to show love to our kids and approval when they do something good. And there were some questions that you were saying, like, you are a good kid. Finally, you clean your room.
Yes.
So, you're praising them, but at the same time, you're criticizing them.
It's a backhanded compliment is what we call that, right?
Yeah. So how do we reverse that? How we reframe the way we communicate? Or somebody said, my daughter wants to study psychology, and my husband said, you have nothing to be a psychologist. Like, what?
Yes.
How can you tell your kid that,
Rather than encouraging them and saying,
yes.
go do whatever appeals to you.
Yeah. So this is one side, one aspect. The other one is working with the junior youth group, which is 11 to 14. And what we use there is the Baha'i Junior Youth Empowerment Program, which is very universal.
Okay.
It's a spiritual, but not, like connected to the faith.
Right.
And because before in the past, people would say, or science would say that between the moment of the conception until 6 years old was when the kid or the human will acquire all the characters, the virtues, the capacities.
Okay.
But now later in life, they said, no, is between 11 and 15. It's
Right.
the last chance you have, like,
What happens
prune a
to you
tree.
during those years kind of cements several
Yeah,
things
because
for you.
you are not a kid, you are not an adult.
Uh-huh.
You are beginning to question everything. So everything that we blame adolescents, it is really a very powerful moment to empower the kids and let them discover themselves, their inner capacities, and how they can use for their benefits and for their community. So we have this program that is, we have books that we study. They have to choose a service for the community. They do art, and it's a safe place to develop healthy friendships. And then we do a similar with youth, like 15 to 22.
Okay.
Same thing, create spaces where they can have difficult conversations, challenge themselves, discover themselves. And it's very nice to see how they, from being super close and never talk about something, suddenly they are talking about things that, like, wow, I didn't know I could talk about this,
And that sort of community-driven conversation is something that is pretty central to the Baha'i faith.
Yeah.
Right? As I understand
Yes.
it.
Consultation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so tell me, this is a community where if you encounter someone, they are most likely to have grown up in a Christian tradition, whether it's a Protestant Christian or Catholic Christian. With the refugee communities, there are a lot of different faiths.
Yes.
I know people who practice Islam. I know Hindus. I know a few Buddhists. Baha'i is separate from all of those. What I know of it is that it grew out of Islam, the Shia side of Islam, but it is one of those faiths that is very focused on tolerance and unity and peace, in that it's not saying your faith is wrong, your religion is wrong, ours is right, but it's saying let's all work together, let's have conversations, let's move toward the same goal. I wonder if that's something that you found success in communicating, or is there a guardedness among Christian believers or Muslims because it is different from theirs?
No, not at all. I mean, not here, not in Paraguay, not in never. No, because the thing is, when we talk about the faith, we believe, like, progressive revelation. So it's like if you go to the school, first grade, you have a teacher, you learn according to your capacity, not the teacher's capacity. Second grade, you have another teacher, same thing, right? So for us, those are, the teachers are like the manifestations of God. They come from the same source. They have the same knowledge, but they teach humanity according to the need of the time that they come and their capacity to understand. So let's say when in 2,000 years ago, when Jesus Christ came and talked about heaven and hell, maybe they have to use some words to say, okay, hell is fire and heaven is,
That was the understanding of people living at that moment in history.
But now you can tell, because we believe also that humanity is going through, infancy, and now we are like in the adolescence, like that's why we see so many destructions, but also things that are coming very nice.
There's not a resistance to science or that kind of advancing in knowledge.
So then now you can tell people, well, hell is being far away from God, and heaven is feeling close to God. And people will understand. So the only difference that we see is that, in essence, all the religions are the same. All teach love, justice, all the virtues, spiritual qualities. The difference is only the laws and the medicine for the time. So when Moses was here, he said, we have to cut the hands of every thief. And then Jesus came and said, no, it's not necessary, because by then it wasn't necessary. So you see, one manifestation bring a law, the other one remove or bring another one. So now we have laws in the faith, because the religion doesn't come just for a group of people.
Okay.
From Christianity, the Muslim, they had impact in civilizations. So the Baha'i faith is bringing equality between women and men and women, science and religion, like you said, and other principles.
As I understand it, Baha'i is one of the fastest growing faiths in the world, and I believe that its ability to talk to people within a variety of faith traditions is a reason for that, because most of the disunity in our world, the conflict is religiously driven. It's driven by one religion fighting against another, or one sect of a religion fighting against another sect of the same religion. And Baha'i is focused on unity within all of those structures and saying there are good things in all of these places. I wonder if that's one of the things that is appealing to you and is part of your message.
It is, because you don't have to limit yourself to work with other people because of their belief. I mean, you
don't have to build walls against people.
And the intention, again, is not converting people to the faith, is working together. So if we teach the unity of God, the unity of religion, the unity of humanity, when we say unity of religion, doesn't mean that everybody has to become something.
Right.
Is that we can work and pray together. That it doesn't matter from where we can still build a community or a new civilization. Because it will make you a better Christian, it will make me a better Baha'i and better Muslim. That's the point of, I think.
That's all of us. We all think this is the point. Tell me about Martha Root. Your foundation is named for her.
Martha
tell
Root.
Listeners who that is if they don't recognize the name.
Well, Martha Root was a journalist in the early 1900s. And when she heard about the Baha'i faith, she was in I think her late 50s. And she fell so in love with the message that decided to leave everything. I mean, she was single, never married. But it wasn't a wealthy person and was ill. At the end, they discovered after 20 years that she had breast cancer. So she passed away. So she went around the world 4 times visiting, kings and head of states. I mean, all sort of different type of people. And talking about, in that moment, the Esperanto language was
it was supposed to be the universal language.
And she was very into that, because one of the Baha'i principles is that we need an auxiliary language. And then the other thing was world peace. She was a feminist, advocate about education. And when I read the book, I really fell in love with her.
Okay.
And I'm a journalist, so I always was like, Martha, like in my prayers, do this, open this, help me to do, learn and have eloquence and, all those virtues that she had. I really admire her a lot, always. And I never dare to read the last part of her story where she talks about how she died and where she died. So when I had to open this foundation, I needed a name. And I said, Martha Root. So that's how I chose that name. And then a few months later, I was posting something on Facebook, and a lady went into my profile, and then she contacted me and said, you know what? I saw your last name, and I realized that I was in Paraguay in 1970, and I met your dad and blah, blah, blah. And I'm in Hawaii. And I was like the first Baha'i that I met from Hawaii. And then another day I posted something that they were training for parents, and she saw Martha Root. And she posted the grave of Martha Root. And then I looked, and she passed away in Honolulu. And I said, okay, I have to go to Hawaii now. Yeah. So, it's the things, Jason, that are happening around that. People that I'm meeting that was in the presence of Martha Root. I was in the presence of a lady from India in my 20s that when she was 14 made a trip with Martha Root in India.
Okay.
So the connections are just amazing. Just that, like a side note.
I would like to hear about your personal experience moving to Amarillo. Where did you live in Oregon?
Corvallis.
Okay. So
it's a college town.
It's a college town. It's a little bit smaller. It's not like in Portland or something. Okay.
Yeah.
But still the culture between the Texas Panhandle and a college town in Oregon is very different. You're also moving here as someone whose faith tradition is different from a lot of people, most people who live here. I wonder what that experience has been like for you, coming to a new place where your past has been a little bit different from what life is like here.
Well, I think because I grew up in a Baha'i family where we were exposed to a lot of diversity and working with the Japanese and so many different other cultures. To me, I see myself recreating, beginning from scratch all over again and again and again.
Okay.
And
You're used to starting over.
and my family becomes my community. When I was in Oregon, I ended up having a very bad experience, like very, very tragic. And I wanted to move away. So in 1 year, something happened that made me move away. And it was to Texas. When I was thinking to go back to Paraguay. So Oregon is, I know some countries in Europe, it's very beautiful, very unique. I adore the nature.
Mm-hmm.
But every time I left Oregon, I felt like I could breathe.
Okay.
Like somebody took me out of the water. So when I came to Amarillo, it felt like home.
Okay.
And I'm so happy. I don't even think about moving away from this place.
I'm glad you feel that way because for a lot of people, just the difference in the landscape, sometimes feels oppressive. If you've grown up with a lot of trees and you move to a place that has no trees, Oregon has a lot of trees. Paraguay has a lot of trees.
Well, we have parks here with a lot of trees.
Well,
and then little corners,
beauty
in the downtown that you see all that tree. I just focus the sunset and sunrise. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. I mean, this is unique here. I love.
Tell me about the people you've encountered here. One of the things we talk about a lot, and I say we, the people who have lived here for a long, long time, we talk about how the people here, the friendliness, the community is different from other places. And as someone who has come here, having lived in other places, do you encounter something unique about the spirit of people here, the openness to conversations, that sort of thing?
The warmth of the people. I think that's why I feel like home.
Okay.
Because, back in Oregon, I cannot complain that where I went, people were like mean or rude or never with me. I cannot say that. But, back in Oregon, I just didn't feel connected. Even when people were nice and all that stuff. I mean, I had my friends, my community, I miss them a lot. But here it's just the energy is different. And I don't, every person that I meet is just like a gem for me. I'm so happy every day. I told my son the other day, we were driving like 2 weeks ago, and I told him, you know what? I don't want to go one day back in my life in the past, because now here I'm so happy, so joyful and grateful that I don't look for anything else. If that makes sense.
That makes sense to me. I think there are a lot of people that can identify with that. I want to know about your nonprofit as you're looking forward, because you're still relatively new. You're relatively new in the area. What do you want it to become? How do you see it growing over the next few years?
Well, I'm like Walt Disney. My vision is like Martha Root Community Building will be in every single spot in the world in generations to come. So Amarillo is like a lab. And what do I see? I see more happy youth, more engaging youth, happy families, a community working together. And when I say community, means the individual, the community groups, either church, clubs, whatever, institution, business, government, because we really need to work collaborate with what we have already, and then prepare, because if we are preparing the youth with tools to navigate life in a different way, and companies or businesses are not ready to receive them, then we are going to be in trouble too. Because there is, I'm sure you know that the recent research that they made about the youth in Amarillo, that they called opportunity youth. So these young people, 16 to 24, they don't care about money. they want to do something meaningful.
Right.
They want to be at service. They prefer invest time in relationship and friendships and family. So now businesses, corporations, they have to reframe how we are going to offer our jobs. And then higher ed, how we are going to say, you cannot say anymore, oh, you're going to make 200,000 if you start. No, it's irrelevant. Mm-hmm. So we have to, reorganize and reframe everything the way we communicate. So when you ask me how I see nonprofit serving here, is collaborating and coming together and consulting and finding ways that we can help people to give the tools they need according to their capacities.
Okay.
And empower them. And then I have people from Canada, Jason. I mentioned when we first met, from Florida, from California, Oregon. They are waiting to implement our program.
Okay.
And from other countries, like in Australia and Melbourne, India, different places that people are saying, we want to bring that model. And say, wait, let's first,
But using Amarillo as a test lab for this concept and then
and they will come. They want to come and see, like in 6 months or a year, can we come and see what you are doing in Amarillo? So,
are you surprised to have found yourself here? I mean, 2 years after you moved here, obviously,
I didn't even know that Amarillo.
Just given the journey of your life.
No, what I realized, that the dream that I had, that my dad said it's impossible to help every child in the world, now through Martha Road is possible. Because if you start at home, educating the parents and giving them the tools to connect with their kids, we are helping the children of the world. This is going beyond, I'm just a little tiny thing in the whole process of what is going to be. This is how I see. And I'm very grateful and happy.
This week's episode is supported by SKP Creative, and the team there asked me to talk about the Amarillo Tribune. If you haven't heard, this is a new local nonprofit journalism project where I'm a founding board member. The Amarillo Tribune is Amarillo's first community-supported, digital-only news organization. It provides free public service journalism about Amarillo and this area. Jackie Kingston is the CEO and executive editor. She's built up a really strong news team for this daily publication. They provide local coverage about issues we care about, including city government. SKP invites you to support the Tribune with a monthly or one-time gift, but also reminds you that content on the Tribune is always free. You can read it whether you pay or not. There's no paywall at all. You can learn more by visiting AmarilloTribune.org. That's AmarilloTribune.org. And thanks to SKP Creative for the support. This episode of Hey Amarillo is also supported by StoryBridge, an early childhood literacy program. Here's an incredible stat for you. Kids who grow up in homes with more than 20 books receive an average of 3 years more schooling compared to kids who come from homes without books. But in the Amarillo area, only 1 in 5 children has more than 20 books at home, just 1 in 5. That means a lot of kids are entering school without any sort of foundation for learning to read. And that's why StoryBridge exists. They're trying to change that. Since this organization launched, it has distributed more than 650,000 age-appropriate books to local kids. And through the Dolly Parton Imagination Library program, provides a book in the mail every month for 8,500 local children, all under the age of 5. And so to keep StoryBridge doing this work, they need your donations. So to give or get involved, visit storybridgeama.org. That's storybridgeama.org. Okay, I'm back with Elizabeth Pakravan. Is that close?
Super well.
Okay, we worked on this before I even started recording. I want to get as close as possible, knowing that I don't have a very good Paraguayan accent for sure. Okay, so 8 Straight is sponsored every week by Panhandle Plains Historical Museum and Canyon on the WT campus. It's the largest history museum in Texas, and its collection includes a brass school handbell with a black wooden handle which belonged to the teacher at a school in Goodnight, Texas in 1909. The teacher would ring her bell to summon students from around, the schoolhouse to come start learning. Now schools have electronic bells and all that kind of stuff, but it was an actual bell that a teacher would ring. So you can see that and learn more at panhandleplains.org. Okay, when you think of Amarillo 10 years from now, what do you hope for?
More youth, higher percentage of youth engaged with community service, looking at life with hope, and ready to bring their best of themselves.
Okay. I didn't ask you in the first part, but your work with these high school students and younger, is it primarily in one part of town or within one school, or has it spread across the community?
Well, we have now in one part, and it's mostly the kids from the parents that attend our program. And also we have a Turkish community.
Okay.
So we are having one group for junior youth and one for youth, but we want to expand next year to different parts of the city.
Okay.
Yeah, we are working on that.
Okay, to take those programs outside certain communities and within.
Yeah, we are working with Region 16 and other organizations to find the place to how to approach and how to implement.
Okay, good. Other than wind, what does this area have too much of?
Beautiful people.
We have too many beautiful people?
No, I think it's great. I like it.
I'll ask you about the wind, though, because we're used to the wind. Was it something that took getting used to when you came here?
A lot until today. But I think, I think this is a beautiful garden.
Okay.
Yeah, of people, souls.
What does this area not have enough of?
Oceans and rivers and lakes, water.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. You've experienced a lot of those, and in different ways than living here. You just had to travel to go see it. You've lived in places where that was part of their life. What's your favorite local neighborhood?
Where I live, around Belmar Elementary School.
Okay. That's not far from where I live.
Yeah.
What do you like about the neighborhood?
I like, to me, the trees. You see the houses, but the trees and the people. I mean, I think people here are just great. And I don't mind going for a walk 11 or 12 p.m., literally, if I need, and I feel super safe and happy. Okay. I mean, there is nothing, and I like that.
Yeah, I do too. That's one real draw of living in some of these neighborhoods is just the safety. A lot of families for that reason. What's your favorite local restaurant?
I love Thai food.
Okay.
So I would say my Thai. I don't go
if you
very
like
much
Thai
out.
food, Amarillo is a really good place to live. We have so many great Thai restaurants.
Yeah.
Okay, other than your own, what's your favorite local nonprofit?
PBH.
Okay.
Panhandle Breast Health, yeah.
Okay.
I used to serve as a board of directors, and I'm also helping as a volunteer now.
Okay.
It's a great cause.
For people who have not encountered that organization, tell me about some of the work that they do.
Well, they offer free mammogram screens and other studies if necessary.
Okay.
And the educational part, like men also need to take care of that. And I think that the service is great. I help several women, like Hispanic, to go through the process, and it's very quick, very efficient, and it's great.
Okay. It's one of those things that if you don't have a regular healthcare provider, it can be really dangerous for women. And that's why it's recommended that you get tested.
And it's very scary if you don't have the capacity to go through and just don't do because you don't have the resources. So it's a great service.
What is the most underrated aspect of living in this area?
When I work at Palo Duro, I have to drive, all the way and go through downtown. I love the sunrise in the morning. Okay. I think it's just breathtaking. It's a gift every single day. And I haven't seen anywhere that sunset, that sunrise.
Sunrise. Well, sunset too.
Through the downtown and the birds and the trees. And
especially in the wintertime, we get a low cloud cover that doesn't always happen in the summer or the spring. And it makes those sunrises really, really nice.
Every minute different.
Yeah. Okay. When was the last time you visited Palo Duro Canyon?
It was at the end of August.
Okay, this year?
Yeah, a friend came from Florida and we took them at night with his telescope to look at the stars.
Oh, look at the stars.
Yeah.
Was it something that was on your radar when you moved to Amarillo?
No,
Did you know that we had...
I did not know.
Okay. So it was a nice surprise when you got here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that concludes the 8 straight questions. I like to close by asking my guest to endorse something. So what's one thing you would like listeners to know about or to experience?
Better connections with our children.
Okay.
And this is not only for, the underrepresented people. We all have that challenge as parents, and we really need that capacity or that awareness that we need to learn how to connect better with our kids.
That is, at least culturally, getting better, I think, with each generation. I feel like, 50 or 60 years ago, the parents would just let the kids do their stuff. And there wasn't always that very intentional, I want to build a relationship with you.
Yes. Well, yeah, that was another, like the freedom that make your own, build your own future. But what I see here, and when I say here in the country.
Right. Not just Amarillo.
Is, the lack of, even the structure is designed to isolate people. So when I was working, let's say, even high school or even at the elementary school, I did some work too. You cannot hug a kid. They are hungry. They want affection. And then their parents come to pick them up, and you see how they don't even care about that. And it breaks my heart. So I really would like to see parents connecting with their kids in a very affectionate way and building those bridges.
Okay, I love that. Elizabeth Pakravan, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that concludes the episode. I want to say thanks to Elizabeth for the interview. You can learn more about her nonprofit at martharootcb.org. That's Root, R-O-O-T. Thanks also to SKP Creative, Storybridge, and Panhandle Plains Historical Museum for supporting this podcast, and to Angelina Marie for editing every week. And thank you for listening. I really do appreciate it. Hey Amarillo exists on a weekly basis because of listeners like you and the local people who support it financially through patreon.com/Hey Amarillo. Hey Amarillo's executive producers include Patrick Burns, Jason Burr, Katie Linger, Corey Burns, Josh Wood, Wes Reeves, Cindy Graham, and Barbara and Jim Witten. This has been episode 383. My name is Jason Boyette, and I'll see you next week.